Austin, are you on it? Are you on it? Are you on the line?
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Testing, testing. Mic 1, 2. Testing. I wonder if I have to be closer. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for attending our first People's Hearing 2026. This is our first People's Hearing in our 3-month series. We'll be talking about public safety, voter education, and environmental justice as well. But this is our first go-around of this. So I just want to thank you all so much for taking time out of your evening to be able to be in attendance today. So to kick us off, right, I'm just going to talk a little bit about public safety in Grand Rapids and even how I feel a little bit about public safety. So I've been in Grand Rapids about 2 years, I would say. I moved here from Holden, Michigan, and one of the things that I noticed about Grand Rapids was policing, right? That was one of my first experiences that I had here. I remember I think it was my second day at LINC, and I was walking up to Beer Run, and we had a stray dog that was walking around, and I was like, oh, we should call animal control, we should, I remember we called, and we saw all these cop cars driving by and everything, and it was very frustrating, right? We had expected, right, this response to be able to help us in a time of need, right? It was a stray dog walking around the neighborhood. We wanted to make sure it got to the right place, and we were met with, indifference. It was 2 to 3 officers that drove straight by, and that's very frustrating. And even today, right, I don't know if anybody just heard the news as of about an hour or 2 ago, but County Prosecutor Chris Becker just said that he would not be pressing charges against the GRPD officer that murdered Daquan Johnson. So we are in, I believe, a crossroads, right, where standing up for our community, right, standing up for the values that we believe in, standing up for ourselves and our families is not an option anymore. We cannot continue to have this indifference towards our lives, right, our communities and our families, right? It's a time for us to stand up and for us to advocate for ourselves truly, right? Especially for Black and brown populations who most of the time are the victims of police brutality, right? And in Grand Rapids, where that seems to be such a norm, right? So to give you a little overview of what a people's hearing is, I'll have some slides for you. So what is a people's hearing, right? A people's hearing is used so we can document community experiences around public safety. So this month is our focus around public safety, right? But it is more, like I said, it is more pressing now than ever, I believe, for us to have a community-led record for a lot of these conversations that we are having. A lot of the times when we go down to city commission, right, we are met with indifference. We are met with, what's another word for indifference? Apathy, thank you. But we're met with all of these feelings where we go down, we bear our story, we bear our testimony, and a lot of times it's not taken seriously, right? So it is more than ever to have that people's record of our testimony, so we can try to organize and try to build some power to create the change that we want to in our community. But like I said, we want to build a public record testimony, right? We want a public record that's led by us for us, right? So we're going to make sure that all the recordings from these people hearing are available widely and publicly, so that it's no secret how the community feels about these issues that bring us today, right? And then we also want to highlight community-driven solutions. A lot of times, the people that have the power, right, want to tell us what their solution is for these problems. They want to tell us how we should manage our community. They want to tell us what public safety is to us, right? When it shouldn't be that. They should not be the ones leading. We should be the ones leading. We should be the ones having the most say in what public safety looks like in our communities. And I think it's disgusting, right? If there's all these community conversations, there's all these community right, that the city will do, right? But a lot of times people in our community have never heard of these things. They've never heard of these events. They've never heard of these forums and all of these things, right? So it's like, who are they marketing to? Are they marketing to our communities? Are they marketing to the people that are most affected? Or are they marketing to the people that are going to tell them the exact same thing that they want to hear, right? So, yeah. So why are we here, right? Too many community voices go unheard. Time after time, people show up, they feel like they're not heard. Time after time, when people go out of their way to go to a 7 o'clock meeting after a long day of work, and they feel like they're not heard, they feel like their opinions are valued, and they feel rejected, right? That plays into the exact type of system that the people in power want us to have, right? We want those who are most effective, are often left out of the conversation. We want those people who are most effective to be the ones leading those conversations and figuring out how we can get to the bottom of a lot of these problems in our community, right? It should, I have a belief, right, that every single community board, every single thing that the city of Grand Rapids, every single board that they have should have somebody from the community, should have somebody from the southeast side of Grand Rapids being their representative of the things that they hold dear, right? And also, public safety impacts us all different, right, depending on whether you live the first ward, the second ward, the third ward, whether you live on the southeast side, whether you live on Madison Hall, whether you live on Division, it looks different, right? But it is more important now than ever for us to find solutions that work for all of us, find solutions that are centered in community, and find solutions that are driven by community. So what will happen with this? The testimony will be documented, right? Like I said, it's going to be public record. If you do not wish to be on camera, or you do not wish to be recorded in any way, shape, or form, just let us know. There's nothing weird about that at all, right? We want you to feel comfortable being able to share your testimony and share your opinion on these things, but if you do not wish to be recorded, just let us know. We want a community-centered record, like I said, right? We want it to be led and driven by the community. And then we want stronger organizing, right? There are so many groups in Grand Rapids doing different types of work around public safety. And we want to figure out how we can organize and do some power building so we can really drive forward that change, right? I remember I was talking to somebody else about this, but I mentioned that it doesn't feel like there is a Black power base in Grand Rapids. It doesn't feel like there is one central place, right, where Black power is organized in and developed in and loved and fed, right? And I think that's something that we need, right? I think a lot of the issues that we've been talking about, Black and brown people are affected the most by it, right? So how do we really set that? So framing the issue as well, right? Public safety looks like a lot of things. Public safety looks like housing, right? Public safety looks like mental health support, right? Having adequate mental health support, not just whatever, right? Whatever they want to give us, right? Adequate mental health support for our communities. It looks like strong, connected communities. And it looks like access to resources, right? A lot of times, I'm saying a lot of times, but a lot of times we're left away or we're left out of those resources and those things that will make us thrive and prosper. But public safety, like I said, can look like any number of things, right? So it doesn't just have to be one of these things on here. If public safety looks like something else to you, let us know, right? So to give you a rough overview of our night, we're going to have our lovely panelists talk about introduce them shortly, but they're going to talk about what public safety is to them, what they think about the current state of public safety is in Grand Rapids, and what can we do to push towards the version of public safety that is community-led. After that, we'll have open testimonies, so if somebody would like to take the microphone and make a comment, they are more than welcome to. We only ask, we don't want to limit you to anything you want to say, or if you want to bear your soul, you don't want to really share, we want you to have that opportunity. We just ask that you be mindful of other people that may want to share as well. So, yeah. And then after that, we'll depart. Just so you know, we'll also be having other people's hearings coming up in May and June around water education and environmental justice, so we hope you're able to join us for that. But does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns on how this evening will flow? Wonderful. All right. Well, so I can get started. We have our lovely panelists. We have one more coming. She had to drop off her keys because she be hustling and bustling. But I want to introduce Jeff. Jeff is a volunteer organizer with GRI Response to ICE. And then we have Harmony, who does work with Grand Rapids Spillover Prevention, the Community on Safety Coalition, the BIPOC Community, and the Sustained Solidarity Fund, as well as the Grand Rapids Mutual Aid Network. So reinvestment, how can we get dollars back into our community? So yeah, I'll open this up to either one of you. I'll hand you my For our first question, and either one can start, what does public safety look like to you, and what do you think about the current state of public safety in Grand Rapids? So it's a two-part.
I just want to begin by trying to hold space for the mother of Dwayne Johnson. I just came from the Michigan State Police Department headquarters in Walker, where the county prosecutor announced that he was not going to prosecute GRPD officers who murdered her son.
Boo.
The prosecutor didn't even have the courtesy to call her first to let her know what was happening. She had to find out through other means to even show up. And then when we got there, they wouldn't let her or anybody else into the press conference. We had to wait in the lobby. So the mother whose son had been killed had to stand in the lobby and watch the press conference through her smartphone. Is it good? Okay. So, and of course, we were all watching everything, and there was just no new information, no new video footage, lots of contradictions in terms of claims of the prosecutor, as we've been thinking and feeling all along. And then the news media, wanted to get time with her, and just as she was getting ready to leave, and somebody came out and said, "Oh, the prosecutor wants to speak with you." She said, "I have nothing to say that day." going through and how we demand justice for her son. Saturday is the 4th anniversary of Patrick Will's death at the hands of GRPD. And there's going to be some activities around that as well. So when you say a question like, what do you think the state of public safety is, it's atrocious, right? It's a joke. That's what DeQuan's mom was saying, is that the system is, the city, the system is a joke. There is no justice. And this is not necessarily anything new in terms of what we've been seeing over the years. You can't continue to spend 38, 39% of the city's budget on the cops while people don't have enough to pay the rent or living paycheck to paycheck, right? More cops never translates into more safety. It never has and never will. It's not their function. The function of policing is to protect systems of power. It's just as simple as that. Which is why I was part of the Defund GRPD group when that first came about in 2020. And it's been something that I'm really committed to, and I think we all need to be thinking about in terms of how we move forward, because I don't believe that you can reform policing. I think the only reasonable approach is to abolish policing as we know. Like I said, like Austin said, I'm a volunteer organizer with Geographic Response to ICE. And one of the issues that we've been seeing for years, but even more recently, is the fact that despite the claims of the mayor and the city commissioners that the GRPD does not cooperate with ICE, it's just a bold lie. Not only because many of us have witnessed the police intervene to support ICE when they're apprehending immigrants, but we have video evidence. This is a picture. So this is Byron Martinez. You can't see Byron because ICE agents tackled him when he got out of his car and shoved his face into a snowbank, so much so he couldn't breathe. He's an Ecuadorian immigrant who was in the process of getting his asylum application. So he had already gone through the system, and he had papers on his person that says that he had applied for asylum and he was waiting for his court appointment to deal with that. But they wouldn't let him get his paperwork out of his pants to show the officer. They just tackled him and shoved his face into the snowbank. And then the GRPD officer, you can see on the left here, was right there assisting this whole process of detaining Byron, who was taken to the Kent County Jail for a day and then sent to the Baldwin ICE detention facility. So we have plenty of evidence that the GRPD is cooperating with ICE. They're not only cooperating in the apprehension of people, but anytime that rapid response people show up who are trained in nonviolent de-escalation tactics to try to minimize the harm being directed at folks, is that they will prevent us from directly intervening to try to prevent ICE from apprehending our neighbors who happen to be immigrants. So I'm going to stop right there because I probably said too much.
Just to kind of riff off of that a little bit, we know that the city of Grand Rapids works with ICE because their offices are just 2 floors below. It's in the same building. There's also evidence that suggests that they're holding and detaining people in city buildings too before they cross them we know exactly where their priorities are, and that's been clear since day one, since the GRPD was formed, right? That they are quite literally the descendants of slave catchers. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to detain and dispossess, working class, BIPOC folks, and quite literally put them into camps where they work for zero wages. So I don't think public safety is working. Now, at the same time, I have seen public safety work in spaces where they are ran by the people who are hosting them. So one example I can think of that's just like a local event where I'm like, wow, public safety is like exercised in a way that's done well is the Grand Rapids Crime. They refuse to work with the GRPD. They hire their own private security firm. All of the security agents are armed and they're licensed and they know how to work with all sorts of folks, not just white folks. And that's also an event where it's usually only one day, but to me in that moment, that day, it does feel like, oh my God, we could have a world where public safety works because we have all the tools, we have all the experiences ourselves within our own communities of how to create safe spaces. Public safety, in my definition of public safety, is infrastructures that provide people with their basic needs and necessities that is available to all people, regardless of their documentation status, their immigration status, their race, class, whatever it may be. Do our systems operate that way? No. A lot of our systems all of our state systems, they rely on nonprofits to help fill the gap. And nonprofits also require documentation and they require certain types of identification, reporting, things that maybe you wouldn't have to do if there were those public infrastructures available for folks. So if we had freely available groceries and food for people, folks wouldn't have to register their address and give all of their private information just to get a box of groceries. So I do think public safety is failing. Nonetheless, I do believe there's been times and there are moments in which our community creates its own public safety and is able to execute it successfully. So I see the potential. Is our city doing that? No. Are the citizens doing that? Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, and thank you both for your responses to that. Yeah, public safety is failing, right, especially in Grand Rapids. And it's about how do we move forward? How do we better public safety in Grand Rapids? So my follow-up question, right, in the dream world, what does ideal public safety look like? What systems need to change in Grand Rapids for us to be able to achieve that version of public safety? Both of you kind of touched on it, but maybe a little bit more actionable. What do we need to do to create the change that we want?
Well, I think first of all, we need to finish the work that we started, right? We need to abolish enslavement. We still have enslavement in our prison and policing systems. That's literally the intention of prisons. And so, in my mind, I want to say that I'm an abolitionist and I strive to have that title. I do think our work's not finished. That, the end of enslavement was just retransformed into policing and into prisons. And so, for me, in my day-to-day life, and I think within my communities, how do we do little things to kind of break that system? And I think it comes back to abolitionist roots, which is to, one, build systems outside of the existing prison-industrial complex. Find ways to never cooperate with the prison-industrial complex, but simultaneously, while it exists, find ways to undercut that system too. So if it means kind of approachable things, if it means changing policies, getting rid of forms, getting rid cooperating in our organizations. Another one I can think of is, in order to have a neighborhood organization, you have to make an agreement that you work with the GRPD. Why? Because they want us to report on our own neighbors. So, if even things as small as whatever community center you're a part of or school you're a part of, if you can create policies that create barriers for police officers to be able to walk into the door, that's to me, the first step. I used to work for Granville Avenue Arts and Humanities out on the southeast side, or southwest side, and we have a lot of students that may, have documents or not, and so one of our policies we had was that no officer is allowed in our facility with a weapon on them. They also cannot come into the building with their uniform on. They have to leave and change in plain clothes and come back. So those were policies that our executive director wrote that were basically now, anytime an officer comes to the door, they can't come in. They can't step into our space without these certain, rules. And so if we can imagine a world where we basically just decide that cops are not shit and they don't belong in our spaces, period. And don't invite them or welcome them in, and don't become relevant either, it really quite literally means cutting off those people and removing them from the spaces and not allowing anybody who affiliates or works with them either, right? If you're a prosecutor, I don't want you at my party either. I don't want you at my community event either, right? If you're working and cooperating with the police, no, you're not fucking welcome. I think it has to start with us being that stern and having that line as clear as present day, saying we don't fuck with cops and any other form of policing, because we have police, but we also have social workers that work with the police, counselors that work with the police, all sorts of different groups in different communities that work daily with the police and give them information and data about what we're doing.
I agree. So about 70 million of the city's budget is spent on policing, and the county between the sheriff's department and the jail is about 125 million. So we're almost looking at $200 million. So imagine if that $200 million was being spent on meeting people's needs in the city, in this county. Because we know when people have their needs met, that conflict reduces tremendously, that crime reduces tremendously. But this is not an argument that they're willing to hear, right, around the whole issues around defunding. Because I think we'll just have chaos in our city if there aren't cops, which is interesting. And then more concretely on the end of what Rapid Response to ICE does, is one of the things we do is we offer accompaniment to immigrants who have appointments, whether it's at the ICE office, the ESOP office, immigration court, so on and so forth. And we've been doing this since June 4th because people who were going to their appointments, again, we're sort of following the rules of the system. ICE picked them up anyhow and detained them and deported most of them. And so we, from that day on, said, if people have appointments moving forward, then we will make sure you get to your appointments in and out safely without being detained by us. That was after June 4th. Since then, we've accompanied nearly 200 people, and not one person has been picked up by us. We're doing this all again as volunteers, just being present with people, making sure they get in and out to their appointments safely, they get home safely, so they can be with their children, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a hotline that people call to set up those appointments. They're not calling the local PD to get them to their appointments because they don't feel safe with the PD. They call us because they feel safe with us. So that, to me, that right away should tell you something about what public safety looks like, right? When we, as a community, build solidarity with each other, accompany each other. That's safety. You can't rely on the police, because the police, first of all, wouldn't do that. They wouldn't accompany people to their meetings, even if they are living in fear of ICE, detaining them. So how is that not practicing public safety? So, as very smart, very much more intelligent writers who critique plenty about policing will say, many of them refer to cops as violence workers, because that's what they are. Their function is to use force to uphold what they refer to as a legal system, which is predicated on protecting power. And so I think whatever we can do, an example I was giving was rapid response, that's a way of disrupting that sort of dynamic. Again, we can rely on each other. It's sort of a mantra we use over and over again. It's everything we need is right here in community. This is what community looks like, right? It's a common chant at our protests, right? Because that's what it looks like, is to be present with each other and to make sure that we get to and from whatever in a safe fashion. And then the last thing I just want to say is that even beyond kind of the sort of the carceral system itself, some of you know that I do a lot of media monitoring work, and just within the last 2 years, right, I've done lengthy studies of local TV and MLAB. So the last big study, which was a 12-month study, there were 685 stories about policing in Kent County. And of those 685, there were only 11 stories where the GRPD actually prevented crime. So in other words, cops show up after crime has been committed. They don't do anything to prevent crime. Their presence is not a deterrent from that. So again, why are we spending millions and millions of dollars for an entity that does not stop or prevent crime by and large, but just ends up punishing people? Because so we know the statistics for the Kent County Jail, that about 85% who are in jail are there for nonviolent offenses. Why in the world do you need to cage people for nonviolent offenses? There has to be other ways that we can sort of deal with resolving those conflicts. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we just need to radically imagine other ways that we can do the work. And I think many people are, like the work that Army does with Gerber.
So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about some other groups here in Grand Rapids. So I think one of the intentions with the Grand Rapids Mutual Aid Network is to build what I call my Cilio network, underground network of safety and support for the people who live in Grand Rapids day to day. That is all of these grassroots organizations, because a lot of the groups that are here that are working today, we're covering a lot of these areas of what we would consider public safety: housing, food, mental health support, transportation, etc. And so we as citizens, we're doing the work, and so to connect each other together, in my biggest dream of dreams is that we have an alternative emergency number, kind of like our ICE rapid response hotline, but also for maybe eventually other types of emergencies, like maybe a car accident or something like that, that we could have trained citizens to respond to other types of emergencies, and have that type of emergency response that does not work with the police, because the police has done that many times where they take citizens and they turn them into informants. And on top of that, there's also harm reduction practices. So things that we can do that don't necessarily stop a police interaction, but will get somebody, at least safe enough that maybe a police officer will pull them over. So Grand Rapids Pullover Prevention, that's what we do. Every third Saturday of the month, around the corner, we're here at Home Madison in the parking lot of our project, and we're changing headlights and taillights and light bulbs and tag lights. And yes, police will pull you over if one of your tag lights are out. So if who said, I've been pulled over 6, 7 times for having a tag layout, for having a light on my car that's not even an essential light, like a brake light at the top of your car that isn't on the back. So these crazy little things like that, which, I mean, changing a bulb can be expensive. It can be $50, it could be $1.50. And a lot of people don't know how to change them because newer cars, they make it a lot harder to get to your bulbs. And so that's one thing we do with pullover prevention. We do small things like filling tires and fluids as well. But to us, that's harm reduction. We're not necessarily avoiding stopping interactions with police, but we're helping folks avoid that. I would also say COSACHA does that work as well, right? They are informing citizens, getting them connected with lawyers, informing them of their rights, informing them of how to set up certain paperwork, like how to have another guardian in case one of them gets detained, how to set up, what emergency plans might be ready. And I think that those preventative solutions, it's awful that we live in a world where we have to think like that, like have emergencies and things laid out for every scenario. But at the same time, when I think back to maybe the 1950s and the 1960s, a lot of our communities were always thinking like that. We had safety plans, and we had ways to get around the police because we also didn't rely on technology as much. And I do think that kind of has shifted nowadays as we all have a cell phone. But to create safety plans with the people in your communities, to have those conversations, and to not be afraid to say something wrong is I think to me, the start of it. And having harm reductive practices, and I know there are tons of other groups that do, harm reduction. I think it's called Realism is Loyalty. They offer mentorships. There's a lot of after-school programs out there where KSSM workers are somebody I can think of. They're not GRBS staff, and they're constantly doing things that social workers and the schools can't do. And those are the things that help, make sure the parents are safe. With Grand Rapids Mutual Aid Network, we have passed on direct giving. We do crowdfunding now. We hope to have funding again to do direct giving. But we also do grocery delivery. So all undocumented neighbors can get groceries brought directly to their house. And we do that in partnership with the other ministries. All little projects like that, I can think of in my head 6 other groups of people too that are just quite literally 2 people who are all right, we're gonna get meals to people, or we're gonna give transportation to people. And it starts small like that, I do think,
All right, I just have one more question. I'm gonna welcome up Candace Matthews, who is our neighborhood engagement liaison. So if everybody want to give all our Candace on here. So for my last question, we have a lot of people that want to be more active, want to become more active in their community, and want to get involved with even the work that a lot of you talked about. So I'm not sure who wants to start, but if there's people watching or people in the audience that what do, what's a step that they can take with the work that you're doing? So yeah.
It's going in and out, so I'll try to project a little bit. But as you mentioned, I'm Candace Matthews, LINC UP neighborhood engagement liaison. So a lot of the work that I do is based around community events. So there's tons of volunteer opportunities. We do different food trucks,
Yeah, for geographic response types, we have regular trainings. The next one's Monday at 6 o'clock. We have another one on the 27th of April, also at 6 o'clock. Those are both Mondays. It's a 2.5 hour training, and it does range. There's a lot of skill sharing that takes place, lots of conversation. So people can get involved in direct intervention stuff, which is to respond directly when we get calls through the hotline, to show up and to try to nonviolently prevent ICE from apprehending our neighbors. We do patrols in 7 different neighborhoods right now on a daily basis because this is what affected communities have asked us to do. We do the accompaniment work that I mentioned earlier. We do monitoring of ICE activity because there are at least three ICE offices, or maybe a fourth one. We're still trying to identify if there's a fourth one. So regularly we monitor those offices to see what activity is taking place. And then we do larger sort of community function safety events. So for example, not just for, people like to think of just disproportionately that immigrants we're talking mostly about Latinos. And yes, there are certainly a lot of folks, but so over the summer, when the African diaspora community had a festival downtown, they asked the rapid response to show up, to be there, because their community is also feeling terrorized by ICE presence in the city. So we were there to make sure that ICE was not going to take people while they were coming to a cultural festival. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff. And then beyond the direct intervention, then we, if we're unable to prevent somebody to be taken by ICE, we connect families to lawyers. We offer material aid, whether that's groceries, whether it's transportation, whether it's diapers, whatever they need. We provide monetary support. And again, we're just called volunteer organizers. We're not a 501c3. We're just an autonomous community-based group that doesn't have any legal status. So when we raise money, 100% of the money goes directly to families who are affected. And we've raised around $50,000 just since the beginning of the year for families who are affected, right? Because most of the time, people who are taken are primary income earners, and all of a sudden their families have no income coming in, and they have children, so they have to pay bills, they have to feed themselves, all those kinds of things. And then on top of that, we offer people the option of going into sanctuary. So we have now 3 churches that are sanctuaries. We're still working on getting more of that. We have lots of safe houses that people can go to. And again, this doesn't cost anything. It's all free. It's just because this is another way people, taking care of each other, right? And then there are community spaces, other entities that they have created sanctuary. We're right now sitting in a sanctuary space. LINC UP became a sanctuary last summer, right? So there's even signage around the window there that says this is a community sanctuary space, right? So which means that the staff of LINC UP, if ICE shows up, they will not cooperate with them. They have spaces that people can go into that are private, so that they cannot be apprehended by us. So sanctuary is not just for faith-based communities, for any entity that wants to do that work. And even beyond that, these are just good skills to have around whatever issue people are working on. Once people join rapid response, we also offer regular trainings on the tactical civil disobedience. So we've had people who've done actions at the sheriff's office, at the county commission meetings, because we're trying to push those entities to adopt sanctuary policies, which are actually public safety policies for affected folks. So that's a great way to plug in. And I not only just say that I think it's important work, but I think it's also transformative work. Not just for the people who we're doing solidarity with, but for those of us who are participating. I think it transforms us as well by engaging in that kind of work.
If you want to get involved with Grand Rapids Mutual Aid, maybe you have a grassroots group or initiative that you're doing in the community and you want to share it, you can email us at grmutualaid@gmail.com. If you want to be part Coalition, you can just show up to our clinics. That's every third Saturday of the month in the Red Project parking lot. So our next one is Saturday, April 16th, I think, from 11 to 3. For the Community Owned Safety Coalition, what that group does is we provide funding to grassroots organizations. And so if you're interested in applying in that, if you have a grassroots organization that needs funding, or maybe you have an event coming up that helps increase public safety, you can email us at communityownssafety@gmail.com, and I can send you the application for that.
I almost forgot, I wanted to share. We do also do what we call the last class. Some of you that are in here or that are watching may be familiar with the class. I see a couple of the graduates. Hey, the last class is an acronym, LINC Academy for Social Transformation. And shout out to Austin. He does a big chunk of the module. Can we just type it up to Austin? He is very engaged, civically knowledgeable. His advocacy piece is just remarkable. So if you have never taken that class before, unfortunately it is a one-time class, but if you've never taken that class before, I encourage you. Our next one is May 13th through 15th. You can just come up to our office and get a application. I can go grab some. I think you might have some on the table. If you're interested in that May class, we are planning to do.
It's also online on the website. On the website.
Perfect. So it is online. You go to linkup.org under opportunities, just like where you would sign up for volunteer opportunities. You'll see leadership training underneath there as well. So feel free to apply for that class. We select up to 25 different community members or partners. Or if you have an organization, we just encourage anyone who is open or interested in more information about civic engagement, how to advocate for your community, how to be a community leader in your own space. You don't necessarily have to work for a LINC UP or Urban League or great organizations such as those to be a community leader. So we kind of discuss those ways of how we can support each other and how you can be, someone like ourselves and show our community, how we can advocate for each other. So again, May 13th through 15th, and then the next one will probably be somewhere between September and October if you can't make May.
Give a round of applause for all the panelists. Alrighty. Well, thank you all very much. That was all the questions I had. But we're going to transition into the part of the night where it's open mic and testimony. So if you are wanting to make public comment or just your testimony, you can feel free to raise your hand, and I can bring the mic to you. If you don't wish to be recorded, you can just tell me when I bring the mic over to you. We'll be transitioning to that portion of the night. So I will know if we want to take a little intermission, have people grab more snacks and drinks and stuff like that. But we'll take about 5 minutes and just wait till we transition to that part of the night. So yeah, thank you very much.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, I'm trying. I was gonna pause it, but we're about to start back up. Yeah.
Also on Facebook.
My thing died though, so my thing died.
Oh,
So now I gotta hold it.
I'm like, what type of charger do it take? Oh, it looks like it has.
It
like,
has
the same
it's-
charger as our computer.
Yeah, it's a USB, but my computer don't have USB. It's got
Oh,
the other.
I'm like, oh, is it USB or C port?
It's C for the thing, but then it's USB for the other side.
Oh, because I'm like, my computer has the same.
We can try, yeah.
Look it up somewhere. It's like a.
Where's your? No. I need your computer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yay.
Back in about a minute or two or so. Try to be back to your seats if you have a testimony, just sit there and say, thank you.
Oh, Candace. I think I need you to log in.
That's why it won't even stay on unless I sure walked off.
Hopefully it says it's in there. Maybe not.
Probably need to just charge for a moment. I got plenty of batteries, so hopefully it's works.
It might just be a second. I'll just wait.
But that means it's charging though, right?
I don't know.
Was it already doing that blinking?
When it was off, it wasn't doing it.
Alrighty. Well, let's start getting started back up. get a chance to get back to their seats.
Yeah. Okay, good.
All right. Get started with our public testimony. And y'all, one thing that I really want to get out of this is I don't want us to I feel like a lot of these meetings turn into, oh, we just had a conversation and blah, 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 we talked about our problems. I really want something to come out of this, like some form of like organizing some power building. So even if you're giving your testimony, you want to maybe throw an idea around public safety or something that we can all work on, I think that would be great as well, if you want to. I know I have ideas, so I might do my public testimony. But yeah, so does anybody want to kick us off?
Born in Chicago, adopted by a family. My mom is white, my dad's black. We moved to an almost all-white town when I was a child. We did not have challenges with the police. We did not ever have issues where the police were singling people out, not even with my dad and I, because my dad's black. So moving to Grand Rapids was a huge culture shock to me, where the police single people out. And from another perspective, I see behaviors becoming more and more severe with people, the younger generation. I oftentimes notice that kids are getting these convictions younger and younger, down to 16, 15. And our ancestors did not survive slavery and set the stage for us to act a fool. They did not. Our ancestors worked hard, they held integrity, they died, and they fought for our rights. So we need to think about how we can encourage people to maintain those rights, because it is sickening what is happening. I'm watching kids give up their rights to, let's say, the Second Amendment. Let's say they want to get a gun later in life. That's their right. They go out on the street, they get a gun from some random, they get caught, they go to jail, they can't get a gun anymore. Later in life, they want a gun. They can't get one because they're a felon. That is kind of what happened with the quick medicine. And I think if someone was there to help guide him, if someone was there to tell him, hey, don't make this choice, don't do that, he would still be alive today. And I'm not victim blaming, but I am saying that we need to be careful about our choices as Black Americans if we want to stay safe. Because I also see a lot of things where Black Americans are being discriminated against for doing absolutely nothing. Because there are so many young people our age that look like me with locks, doing horrible things to other Black people in our community. I'm disgusted by it. And I face racism because of that. I am so upset and disappointed with how we are behaving, how we are raising our children, how we are using YouTube to raise our children, and not saying anything to correct those behaviors. Kids grow up thinking that these behaviors are right, sleeping cards are cool. No, it's not. So, I just want to remind all of us to think about our rights, value our rights, and keep going. Let's hold our rights as close to us as our ancestors held the dream of having rights. And I'm sorry that he is passed. I am very sorry to his mom, but I really wish someone would have said, this isn't right. You will be placed at risk if you have an illegal weapon on you. And I think we need to start warning kids about the gravity and the grave outcome of their decisions.
Does anybody else? Richard.
Yeah, my name is Richard. Just a little background. I've been an activist, always nonviolent, in the 50 years I've lived in Grand Rapids as well as before. Been arrested 34, 40 times for those things. And with a lot of police harassment and harassment in the county as well. One of those, thank Austin for leading this most recently. I'm part of a group which Austin leads now called Grand Rapids United for Real Public Safety. And we're looking toward a possible ballot initiative. We're going to get city commission support for that. And I just want to read it first. It shall be a City of Grand Rapids policy to support measures and methods that are best proven to enhance public safety while minimizing or avoiding harm. Accordingly, a minimum of 32% of the budget shall be for public safety broadly defined. Right now, it's 30% for police, just police. As expenditures not just for police, but increasingly for interventions independent of the police and based on support for people's needs rather than use of force, including outreach by mental health workers, community-based violence prevention, justice diversion, mediation, and other means as the city commission shall determine to be public safety issues, such as provision of needed housing and climate mitigation. When people hurt others, restorative, transformative processes based on safety, accountability, equity, and healing shall be the preferred response. When not used, reasons shall be articulated. To give police and others maximum options as the city makes the transition to this more community-centered approach to public safety, the city shall support appropriate training as needed. We've been working on this for a while. It looks at this point pretty iffy if the city commission is going to support it. Anyone that would like to, please contact our Mayor David LeGrand, who's pretty much on the fence at this point. And we really don't know particularly about our two second ward commissioners. If anybody's in the second ward particularly, contact those two commissioners. And I'll just finish up saying we have an email list, and I'll pass this around for people. If you're not on it already and would like to be, please just sign in and we'll put you on the list. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm a stand-up. My name is Tasha. I am a member of the Community-Owned Safety Coalition. And like the young lady that spoke earlier, I have a very similar situation to hers, but just a little bit different. I grew up in a city called East St. Louis, Illinois. Right on the bridge from St. Louis, they called us the River Rats. Okay, it was an all-black city. I went to an all-black Catholic school, and in March of my 11th grade year, my family is from Grand Rapids, but in March of my 11th grade year, I moved to Grand Rapids, our whole family, because we had other family, and just some things happened, and we had to relocate. And when I moved to Grand Rapids, I too had a culture shock, because I've never went to school or lived around other races before. Everybody in our city was black. The police officer was black. I didn't fear the police. I feared gangs and things like that around me. And when I came to Grand Rapids, now, I am 53 years old. I do not have a record. I am not a felon. But I have been in the Kent County Jail at least 9 to 10 times. And you know why? Traffic violations. Being too broke to pay a traffic bill and having your license suspended. And then when they had the $500 you had to pay to get it reinstated, then they had to get rid of that. A lot of times black people go to jail because they're poor. And a lot of times black men with guns that are felons do it because they nobody teach them any better. And I do agree with that. But at the same time, I have a son that he died in a car accident 3 years ago. But when he went to prison, he would constantly tell me, my whole life I was told that 2 out of 3 black men go to jail. They go to prison. So he said, I knew this is where I was going to end up at. And sometimes the things that our young black men do that catches them to catch felony cases when they are younger, those things are done to young black men. Our boys, our young men are put in situations where they are criminally prosecuted for things that normal white kids can do freely in their neighborhood. So, I feel like, and even people to this day, I have friends right now, family members that are felons, and they carry guns. And they're not supposed to, but they do it anyway. But that doesn't mean that they deserve to get killed because they're carrying a gun. And I did see where Daquan didn't have a light on his bike, and he was riding in the street. Now, had he been on the sidewalk, that had not been the problem. But how many black people do you know that there are rules to ride bikes? You're supposed to ride in a bike lane. When we was kids, our parents told us to ride on the sidewalk. So a lot of things that we get condemned for are things that we think are normal and that other people think are not normal. So that's all I'm saying right now. Is just 2 more meetings and I have a lot. But yeah, to the police.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Teresa, and I want to comment on what she said about the bike curb, because I don't even know with the law that you can't be on the sidewalk with a bike. And I told my daughter, she said, Mom, you can go to jail for that. I said, that's just stupid, because do you know how crazy these people be out here driving? And where I live at, it's constant accidents all day long. I can sit on my porch and watch where the traffic is, and they won't even put speed bumps, and we got all seniors and children on my block. And I walk in the rain to petition Grand Rapids to make it safe in my neighborhood, and they still to this day will not do it. Everybody in my neighborhood signed their petition, and I called the city and asked them, why don't y'all do things? Because we're closer to the hospitals and DHS and stuff, so they won't do nothing on Jefferson Street. And I said, that is so unsafe, it don't make sense. I watched literally speed down the street like it's Ghost Free Racing. And sometimes me and my neighbors sit out there and watch them do this. And I'm like, this is just crazy. But you can go in other neighborhoods and they make sure everything is safe. They got safety signs for children. Slow down. I'm out there yelling all the time, slow down. There's so many accidents every year at that corner. And they lucky ain't nobody been killed yet. And it's ridiculous. And as far as police, it's times where, and this is huge, where a woman stole my whole identity. And come to find out, her and the man been doing this for decades. I went to Grand Rapids Police. This lady still freaks this day riding around here in Grand Rapids car with me. Grand Rapids Police said, I went to them for a whole year, make them report something. Nobody did anything. They kept saying, first of all, I didn't know her. Second of all, I had her living in my house. Third of all, one of them had to apologize for me because they never even made a report on her. And I'm like, y'all would stop her from the get-go. Do you know how many of this woman tried to sell her house? She got an appointment in my name. She put my information on her website. She did so much damage. I come home, I had realtors to buy my house. And to this day, she's still walking around and laughing, cruising around in Grand Rapids. My cousin said, I just seen her speed down my street. Doesn't make sense, because it's black on black crime. But the guy that was doing it with her was pretending to be a pastor at St. Mary's Hospital. Do you know how many people information have gotten over the years? This is how they get cars, this is how they get houses. Sam's store, they were asking people for their social security numbers. And I'm like, that's illegal. The people in the community don't know no better. They target seniors, they target children. The Better Business Bureau, I went to a community thing where they had at the church. This was last year. Police was there and everything, and I talked to them about it. Even the Better Business Bureau was there. What's the point of having them? Because the Better Business Bureau don't do anything. They told people when something like that happened, give us your information and we'll give them the information and y'all can talk it over. Who do that? So it doesn't make sense where the world, what's good is bad, what's bad is bad. It's time for a change. It's time for people to wake up for real. Because these high-powered people have control over
It's like an awakening right now. It's in the Bible. We are living prophecies in the Bible. And they took prayer. When we were growing up, we had prayer in school. You were praying over this country. They took all that away. They knew exactly what they were doing. I look at Grand Rapids Police, they target people in the community. St. Mary's Hospital is another one. I don't know if I can throw that out there, but they assume people are homeless. You know, I had, for instance, someone that was there that was sick, really sick, and they took them as a homeless person. Didn't know they had family with them, and actually called the police and took them to jail. They asked them were they on drugs or alcoholic when no, they were sick. They could have died. So there's a lot of things going on. I reached out with what I went through to the senator, the governor, the mayor. I wrote fraud reports the whole year because of what this woman had did. They put out pictures and everything, but nobody seemed to do anything. She's still free to this day, still doing what she does. And I'm like, catfishing people using my picture and stuff. You know, how crazy is that? How demonic is that? Where nobody's doing anything about any of this stuff. So this world, people need healing. We don't have many things for these children to help them. They keep everybody distracted. You know, the job, these housing programs. People don't even know what the housing programs. Yeah, they're building community houses, but they also own the land and they're building houses on. So a lot of this stuff is just lies after lies after lies. It's time for people to wake up and know the truth. Ask God for clarity. He's going to show you all of it. And it's time to bring the Bible back. I tell people, pray over your children. Pray over this country and this world. Because we live in biblical times. And as you open up your Bible, it tell you about the rich people. It tell you about the house. It tell you about everything. And it's time for people to wake up. Wake up and just do better. Know that God is in control. Not man, not the scientists. Who created the scientists? All this foolishness. No, it's just time for truth. And it's time for people to say, no, even with the insurance. I'm learning with the insurance. People don't even know car insurance. They up in premiums just because they can. That's the mission in their pockets. You know what I did? I talked to a head person and told them, I'm on a fixed income. I refuse to pay commission in your pocket. They came down on my insurance. $86. And that's why I tell people, start opening your mouths, start investigating things, start doing more reading, start doing more studying. Because these are the times we're living in. They're more interested in greed and power. This country is becoming a democracy. It's not about the people anymore, and it's time for people to wake up. Wake up and start opening your mouths and knowing you don't have to do what these folks are telling you to do. Once you wake up and start living and moving the way you want to, all these houses, and they're out there like greedy vultures. I get calls constantly about, I got one property, and I told them, I said, you think I don't know about residual wealth and income? You want to take the one thing that I got for my family, and then if I sell this, then what? You know, where are we going to go then? Help that make sense. When y'all up on the rip where people don't even have a roof over their heads. This stuff is nonsense. Then you got to worry about the food, the air we breathe, what we drink. You know, it's crazy to drive you crazy every single day. They don't want to with their mental health. Everybody is going to need healing. This whole world needs healing. And I just want to say, everybody, please just start covering your families and praying, giving it to God, and start opening your eyes and investigating anything. We have a right to question things now. We have a right to study. I do more book reading now. You know, if you pay attention to the TVs, they've been mind manipulating us for a long time. It's like hypnotizing people. I watch my grandbaby, he watch a show, and he'll push you out the way at 1 year old to watch that show, and he's mesmerized by the show on TV. You can see the colors and stuff. And I tell you, the more God gives you clarity on things, you'll start seeing so much amazing things around you that people don't have time to even enjoy. You'll notice the animals don't run no more. You'll notice that the geese don't even fly south no more. You'll notice all kinds of stuff. When you're looking up at the clouds, you're like, yeah, you know, I got the time now to breathe and really realize God's grace. And that's what I just want to say to people. Just start believing in God, knowing that God and Jesus is real. You know, all this demonic stuff that's been going on in this world where people not safe, you know, worried and stressed and depressed. It's time to know the real truth on everything around you. God bless.
Anybody? Yes.
Hi, my name is Renee Campbell, and I just want to say thanks, Austin, for having the last class that came up building this building. My brother was murdered last year, August 10th, on Logan and Diamond, and it was a dark place, a dark time with my family. And I went to the last class in October. It was one of the biggest classes, and I graduated, and it opened up my eyes about the civil engagement. So that class for Austin, the public safety, the 33% of the safety, that really what caught my attention. I wanted to help prevent where my brother got killed at, having the cameras or whatever. I said, I don't feel safe in Grand Rapids no more. We moved here over 20 years ago from New Orleans, and my mom came up here to raise her family. So back then in the 90s, Grand Rapids was a good place to raise a family, for housing, for jobs. But now no more. And Grand Rapids is the second biggest city in Michigan. I'm not happy here. My brother wasn't murdered by the police, but he was murdered by somebody else. But between the regular people and the police, I think we need to come together. It's a lot of dividing, like she said. We live in our last days and stuff. We don't have nobody to trust. So putting our trust into God and stuff. And I'm really glad that they have this class and stuff, so that way, like you said, we have to inform ourselves and stuff. So we can't listen to what the government's saying. It's like how Austin said, it's a system. And we in that system, they're gonna keep us in that system, keep us down, and try to have us below them. Like I said, they have stuff, a lot of programs out here, but they only give it to the rich people, not the poor people or the middle class. How are we supposed to elevate or get better, And then two, I think a lot of people, they focus on color and stuff, which we shouldn't focus on color. We need to be focusing on being united as one. Us as, I think, the United States, we in the last place, from any other country. We in last place, and I feel like with the wars going on, we haven't been in a war since the 90s, right? Was it Bush? I don't know if it was Bush or right, back in the I'm 42 now, so times have changed, and we is living in our last day. So I just want, Grand Rapids to try to come together, uplift it every month. I know, sometimes the police, it's an organization like the KKK or something. People wake up every day. They're normal people, just like doctors. They anybody has a job or a career. Wake up. Some people don't wake up. They have attitudes and stuff. So you just have to pray over everybody, not just ourselves, over the whole country. The leaders, they're not leading us up. They're leading us down because we, like I said, I think ISIS, that's a new form of slavery. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, it was, like I said, concentrated camps, slavery with black people and stuff. So I feel like, ISIS is a new form of slavery. So we do have to pay attention to everything. Like I said, the Bible, it tells us, the instructions that we need to know. And then too, I'm really happy that they have this and that last chance class, because like Austin said, you can't start with the government, the big government. We gotta start local. It starts here, and that's the big thing. And that's since my brother got killed, this has been a safe spot to me. I haven't made it to the meetings before because when my brother got killed, my mom passed away on Christmas. starts with us. Like, you know, if we gotta be bigger, if we come together, we probably could solve a lot of things.
Anybody else? Yeah, sir.
So, I know I did get some things off my chest earlier, but there are things we can do. We can focus on raising our children. So, there's a book called The Explosive Child, and it talks a lot about approaching easily frustrated children and helping them overcome their frustrations in a way where they can sustain those skills to self-regulate. A lot of the youth I see today, you step on their shoes, their new shoes, they'll get mad, they'll whop you upside the head. So, we need to start practicing those techniques sooner and earlier with the kids so that it just becomes second nature. This book, How Long Will I Cry, is a book on the voices of youth violence, and it gives you insight on how these other kids feel, how the kids who are doing the right thing feel when their friends are gunned down, when they are hurt by others, how their families feel when they simply have to walk to school. And it also contains memoirs of people who are incarcerated, youth who are incarcerated, and it talks about how they feel and how they wish that they would have had better opportunities. Beyond Behaviors is a book on how do you raise your children when you're not doing the best, when you are maybe not feeling the best. How do you feel when you're working with others? And it really helps to self-reflect. Think about your own biases. Think about how you approach situations. And continue with the heart of openness. And so this book is just about using brain science to understand and solve behavioral challenges. And then this is one of my favorite books, The Anxious Generation, and it talks a lot about how we were essentially raised by the internet, and how when the internet and YouTube is just put in front of these kids, and these kids are just watching it, they are soaking in so much information that's normalized. So if we think about the Kia era, the TikTok era, those kids were learning that this is a fun activity, this is a high-risk relating time, but they don't think about how sad will I be when I'm sitting in that jail cell if I get caught? How will the police treat me based on my skin color if I get caught? A lot of these behaviors, we can put an end to it to protect our children better, because our behaviors can be a protective factor. Where we are raised is a protective factor. You were raised in a majority Black community, and if you would have stayed down there, you would have felt a lot more protected. And so how we interact with the world can protect us. If you go up to someone and hit them, is that going to create a safe situation for you? No, they can hit you back. So if you go up to someone, give them a hug or a handshake, you're a lot less likely to face the same level of risk that you place that other person in. And so I think we need to do a lot of self-reflecting and educating on behaviors and perceptions in the community, because I'm really tired of people assuming that I'm up to no good. I am never up to no good. And so it's really disappointing that people that look exactly like me are creating this stigma for so many people who aim to do better in life, aim to serve others in life. And I think that we can grab hands and all go for change.
Do you mind if I should?
Yeah.
So, I think, and to go off that last point too, when we have conversations about, our youth and, Black men and everything, I think it's really important to frame it in the fact that, a lot of our community goes through a lot of trauma, right? A lot of these young men that are in our traumatized a lot of these young men in our community have been traumatized, right? And I think it is a hard ask, right, for you to ask a 15, 16, 17, whatever that may be, year old, right, who has been through all this trauma, who may have seen violence, poverty, growing up in poverty, is a very traumatic thing. You develop behaviors, right, based on that experience, right? So it's it's a multi-pronged approach to how we're able to bolster and develop our communities into something that we want to see, right? I think this is a lot of systemic problems, right, that create the environment that we are in right now, right? Poverty and the lack of access to resources and housing and food and all of these things, right? I grew up and I've had nights where I've been stressed about food, or I've been stressed about, where I'm gonna lay my head, or I've been stressed about my mom. And, a lot of our Black men have this mentality of like, if you was raised by your mother, you have this mentality of, well, I have to help her, I have to find out a way to be able to, change myself into a person. So a lot of our Black men put that unnecessary pressure on themselves as well. So it's not just about housing, it's not just about safety, it's not just about guns, it's not just about anything, it's about the whole entire picture of how we can really develop and bolster our youth and have them be proud of who they are. So, yeah.
I'm listening to the young lady, and I understand some of the stuff that she's saying too, but then in some ways it doesn't just go like that. Because in all reality, at the age that I am, Grand Rapids is one of the greatest cities, and I grew up in this city. And I worked 7 days a week at my job, and I would go to work. My family didn't even know what I was going through. And when Trump got in office, they was coming to work with banners and flags now. When Black Lives Matter, they turned the TVs off. I got bullied and harassed every single day at work, and I worked 7 days a week, over hours. Had to help this end. Couldn't go to work and just be able to stay focused on my family. When I had loved ones dying, I had my children missing me. It was like paid slave labor. And this is what I was going through. And in my mind, as a kid, I always asked, why? Why do I have to go through this? Being Black is one of the, I hear about ICE and all this other stuff, which I have friends and family members of all colors. And I look and I say to myself, I had one friend that I talked to when I used to go to the churches and stuff, and she was Hispanic. And me and her love each other, help each other, and she told me how afraid she is. Try being this. I understand what you're going through, but try being born in this world, going through this, being this color. This color is one of the hardest colors there is on this earth. And I have sympathy and empathy for everybody, but being this, I cannot erase. So now it's to the point where, like I tell you, Jesus and God didn't create and put people on this earth for division. He put us all on earth to be together as a community. And they have made it so hard throughout these centuries for us to keep going through a constant repeat of this mess. Now I have a grandson, and I look at him and I have to pray for him every single day and pray that he be a leader. I look at him where my grandchildren and all of them are so smart, knowledgeable, and I don't want them to get held back in this world because of how it is, because I know how it feels because I was held back. To know that I can know thousands of instruments without getting a degree. The education system on how to mess with people's minds and brains and all this other stuff. Come on now, it's just time for change. And when in the Bible God said He will make that change. So no matter what they're doing, when He said He won't make all things new, it will be new. And that's no stopping it. Whatever He created, it shall be. God bless.
Anybody else want to share with this? Oh, yes.
Thank you. My name is Russell Olmstead. I was raised in the suburbs of Grand Rapids. And to the points that everybody's brought up, I did absolutely everything I could possibly do to fuck up my life. I broke into homes, stole cars, I did drugs, I did everything everything I could do to mess it up. But nobody would let me fail. The community would not let me fail. My parents wouldn't let me fail, my school wouldn't let me fail. And I know that that's because of the color of my skin, because of the community that I grew up in. It's one of the things that has always made me try to use whatever privilege and power I can to work within the system that I have power in, trying to change it in a way that can give the experience that I had to everybody. Because we all make mistakes. We all are, no one is ever going to go through life perfect. And we need a system, a community of people, a society that allows us to be humans, allows us to grow, allows us to get through those mistakes and become the people that we are going to be in this world. I work as a volunteer on a civilian appeals board here in the city. We are a board that when there's police misconduct or charges of police misconduct around civil rights violations, use of force violations, or civil rights and use of force and constitutional rights violations, that if there's an internal affairs investigation, if the investigation is not, the person, the complainant, does not agree with the outcome of that investigation, they can appeal to our board, and we will review the case. It is not a perfect system. It is not even, I would say, a good system at this point. But it's one of the only systems that we have internally here that can offer some sort of oversight or civilian community-led voice in this policing accountability structure that the system has. But please know, I'm not trying to say that the system is good. It is not. Or that it is working. It is not. One of the things that some of the members have been trying to do here is push reforms around that to give more power to the board, to the members, to the community members who serve on that board, more independence, to be able to do investigative powers, subpoena powers, more independence, things around the intake to allow, to get it outside of the GRPD's hands for intakes of violations, so that they are not the people who are interacting with someone when there is a complaint, to try to offer some better oversight there. We've submitted those recommendations. They are being considered by the city manager right now. But the reason I'm bringing it up is one of the things that can make a difference in getting some of these recommendations forward and over the finish line, because of the constant problem of labor negotiations with the Grand Rapids Police Department Union, is community pushing these types of efforts. If it's something that you agree with, I'm happy to give any sort of information to anybody around this. It's a bit of a long document. It's about 12 pages of recommendations, but I think that there are things that can be done within the current system. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be changed, but within the current system, there are things that we can do to try to make it more equitable, to create a better oversight, accountability, better transparency, and above all, more community input and more community control about how we are policed. That's it.
Hello, my name is Tori, and I moved into the neighborhood about a year ago. I live right over on Prospect, and was clearing out the yard, and I sold a bunch of papers that I owned gentleman came to pick up the papers, I gave him a card. And in October, we got a phone call, and his brother was picked up by ICE, and he's like, he has a green card, like he's got all his papers. We don't know what to do. I didn't know who to call, so can you help me? And I had taken the rapid response ICE class, and I was part of the mutual aid group, so I was able to kind of put out a call and say, hey, here's the situation. I heard something, I don't know if it's true, I haven't looked it up yet, with bond for immigration, you don't get a percentage off, like you have to pay the full amount, and that's the only thing that you can be arrested for and not get a discount on. So these people are detained, and then they have to pay the full amount. And so I put up the thing to mutual aid within 24 hours. The request was paid. He was still detained for 3 weeks, but when he got out, he had some money to be able to pay for, his electricity bill. He got the bond. So I guess what I'm saying is, you never know when you can help. You never know who you're going to meet, and it's important.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
So I'll be very quick because I think everything that's already been said is enough. But I will just say some of the things that everyone brought up really make me think about. I'm a GRCC professor, my name is Tori, and I'm in a situation in which I get to teach high schoolers college classes. And something that I teach at Wyoming predominantly, and most of the students do not look like me, yet most of their teachers look like me. And I think that we have to consider, and I think many people here already clearly do, that education is so impactful on how kids view themselves, how they view their communities. And one of the things that I'm saying is because it's a huge privilege, but also because I think we don't always think about it, is that teaching kids about what people before them and currently are doing, that people that look like them, that have changed the world, right? So, yeah, we talk about the French Revolution, I teach history, but we talk about the Haitian Revolution a hell of a lot more. We talk about certain things like, we'll talk about Abraham Lincoln, but who we talk about more, the actual emancipators, the people that actually did it, right? And I think how about cowboys? A lot of cowboys were black, indigenous, Mexican, right? Women too. But that's not talked about. So I think when education can make kids think like, oh shit, sorry, that guy looked like me. And I'm not just on this path to looking like either just a victim or, right? Because people are complex, right? And I love, as someone who did not grow up in a world that was telling me, you have all these things that we don't like, right? Or the system was set against me. I didn't have that. And it's a huge privilege to me to see how teaching kids about real change done by people that look like them in their communities currently and historically, how important that is. And I think the more we can in everyday life talk about that, like, hey, we saw on the news the other day that this happened. Guess who changed something like that? Guess who erased a law like that 20 years ago? Or who led this movement 10 years ago or yesterday, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but things like that are just so integral. If we want to change these systems, we have to learn where they came from. We have to teach kids and people how to see the people who have changed these things before them, right? And anyway, I think, we're talking about these things. I think that's a really important part of it. So thank you guys.
Yeah, well, anybody else?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I don't know if it's been said yet. I think I've heard it, this system is so corrupt and backwards. There is no individual effort that can erase it or change it. We have to come together, and we can, and we will. So let's do it. Also, similar to the work that Movement Means of Lusatia, GRR in response to ICE, the Grand Rapids Mutual Aid Network, GRPOP, any org that you can get into that is doing great work.
Just because you were asking for solutions, right? So after this discontinue, if they're arrested, there's a thing called the Michigan Solidarity Bail Fund, which automatically post bond for people so they don't have to sit in jail. Many of us have been talking about this for years. What if we had a community bail fund so that there's no reason for people, because they can't afford the bond, to have to sit in jail? They haven't been found guilty of anything yet. There's no reason for people to sit in. What if we had a community bail fund so that people don't have to stay in jail, so they're not traumatized by that experience, so they're not separated from their families, so they're able to continue to have a job or other kinds of things. Just because of the work we do in rapid response, I know that bond funds can work. So, that's a suggestion.
I mean, I would love to like organize around something like a community bail fund. It just doesn't work for me, I guess. But you know, would it be worth like maybe doing some sort of like I guess like how should I think that's a great idea. How should we go about starting that? Like how should we do like a get together and like maybe like discuss like ways to pool money, and things of that nature. This is an open question too, because I'm down for whatever. What in terms of setting up a community bail fund, like what's our first step in doing that?
It's already set up.
Oh.
Yeah, it's already functioning.
Oh.
Yeah.
How can people involve?
Support it, yeah.
Yeah. So
right?
How
You're saying
people,
that the bail fund that's currently in existence, right, Jeff?
Well, the Michigan Solidarity Bail Fund, that specifically is for people, activists who get arrested, right? So it's not just for...
Oh, the fine. Okay, I see. Specifically for that.
What I'm saying is that I think we have a more beneficial to people just because they're poor.
Right.
We can't afford the bail to get out of jail.
Right.
So, I mean...
So this would be a new thing.
It's being done in lots of other communities, so I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to look at how people have been doing it, what's been effective. And the thing about bail funds is that you're not throwing money away. The whole point of bonding somebody out is that it just guarantees that they will show up to their court date. Then like 98% of the money will come back. Right? So it's a revolving fund. So it's not like you're just tossing the money away and never seeing it. So it's just another way to think about that. It can be self-supportive in many ways. You just have to generate some seed funds up front. And again, there's lots of ways that people have done that across the country.
I think it would be cool definitely to maybe do some fundraising type of to figure out how we can get that started. I know.
It all takes a conversation. So I mean, this event is great. I'd love to come to more of them. Maybe we can set this in as another workshop or class or something where we can gather community leaders. We're interested in helping build something like that. That's all I was saying.
Not trying to get on profit, right? But I think there's like a level of I think with nonprofits there's like a level of restriction that comes with there's like a whole nonprofit industrial complex, and I don't know how that would function. I think it can just be a community thing, right? And just led by. So yeah. types of people, right? Not talking specifically about the, but I think a lot of these same types of systems and stuff, right? And I feel like nothing's going to change inside of the wheel, right? Nothing's going to change inside of the system, right? And I think it's going to take a different approach to a lot of some of this stuff instead of just trying to rely on the same types of like governmental agencies and stuff like that have committed harms against our communities, right? So I think it takes being a community. I don't think we always have to be going toward to those people, right? It can look like they should be reaching out to us, quite frankly, right? Like, what can we do to support the work that you want to do, right? Instead of us trying to be like, well, can you do this, can you do that? Because I think it creates like a power dynamic where community isn't centered first, and it centers them first in that power dynamic. So, yeah.
Well, I would sure like to know more when you guys have more of these, to make sure that I'm able to come, because we have a neighbor watch lady too, and she really be involved in a lot of the police stuff and everything too, for our neighborhoods and stuff, to try to keep them safe and everything. She also works too, so I love that because she go hard for us. And as I said, now looking at everything, how they got the system tied up, I didn't even know, like, if you live in housing, they won't even allow you to live in the housing at like under Section 8 stuff and even go to school. I said, who just do that? Who wants to be not knowledgeable? And they like, we can pick and choose one. That's why I told them, I said, the system that they have, the solid thing, this most definitely have to change because, the slavery thing, and that's exactly what everybody is in. Everybody is in this slave system. If you're not rich, it's like it don't matter. But yeah, we have to stand together as a community and come together now. Because look at this world and we have to get this getting changed behind our back right now. We don't even know what laws we're going to be looking at soon.
Did you hear about the voting precinct changes that happened last year? Like everybody got they eliminated some polling places.
Yeah.
And that was a decision that happened just out of nowhere.
I was asking people, when did they take vote on this and that? I'm like, it makes sense. I'm putting stuff on my phone that's changing. Even with the education, now they want to mess with Medicare. Now you want to mess with education for the children. Now you want to try to take food away from the children that parents don't have time to feed them before they get home and stuff because they have after school programs, to them. It's just ridiculous. But people have to, we all got to wake up. We got to wake up because there's other countries that are ahead of us, and dealing with the system. We've been lied to so long, it's not 12 months, it's 13 months out of a year. It's not 30, 31 days, it's 28 days out of a month. Come on now. It's time for people to wake up and do studying, get your mind right, with all this stuff. Know the truth. A lot of people don't even want to know the truth to wake up.
So, for brevity, I think, like I said, I really like that community build project that Jeff mentioned, and just trying to figure. I think sometimes there's so many different issues in the community that we have to tackle that it's hard to just pick one, right? So that's why we become so fragmented. And we got to do this, we got to do that, and they do that to keep you in a state of unrest, always feeling like you got to do something else. But I think if we could figure out a singular issue, right, and really put all our power and our people power and everything behind that, I think we could see a lot of change in our community. So that's all I put it. Yep, I see people packing up. I was here late. Does anybody have anything else to say before we wrap up for the night? Yeah. Next event is going to be May 6th at 5:30 in the same gallery that you're here. It's going to be talking about voter education. We're going to get into the history of the vote in the United States of America and how a lot of people have been disenfranchised through voting and the power structures that revolve around that. So we're going to be talking about voter education that month. And then we also have one in June around environmental justice. We're working on a follow-up to our 2019 report. It was an environmental justice report that we put out, but we're focusing on building another report out. If you don't know vapor intrusion and respiratory issues, and a lot of our kids and even adults have asthma, right? And that if you look on the map, the Eagle map, you'll see this is like a big red zone, or big red zone for like asthma and respiratory issues, right? So trying to figure out how we can combat some of those like environmental racism problems as well. So yeah, that's going to be June. So, and I will also send a follow-up report tomorrow morning. So make sure you sign in if you didn't. But yeah, that's going to be our upcoming events. So anything else for a good order? All right. I want to thank everybody who spoke, everybody who attended. I want to thank our panelists. I want to give you all a big round of applause so we can all clap for everybody that shared and got up here and gave their testimony. Thank you all so much. I hope to see you at our next people's hearing in May. So thank you very much. If you want to stick around and chat with me, I'll be around for a while. Thank you very much. Have a good night.